Hey everyone, Happy New Year. Welcome to another Open Cluster Management Community Meetings. Today is January 6th, 2023. Good to be back. Today, we want to talk about the ArgoCD pool integration that we have with Open Cluster Management and our ArgoCD. The ArgoCD pool is actually our most popular video on YouTube. So we want to just show the community our progress. So the traditional ArgoCD integration that we have with Open Cluster Management works in the traditional ArgoCD sense, where the ArgoCD control plane cluster connects to the remote clusters directly and apply the resource directly. So it's more of a push model. By using this new ArgoCD pool integration project, you get the pool model integration. So how it works is you set up the Open Cluster Management multi-cluster control plane hub clusters, and then you have the OCM managed clusters registered to a hub cluster. And then using the ArgoCD application set, you generate applications, and then but these applications lies dormant. They're not meant to connect to the remote cluster, similar to the unlike the push model. Instead, the pool controller will wrap these applications with manifest work. So when the managed cluster OCM work agent sees the manifest work on the hub cluster, they will pull the application down to their local remote cluster, and then the application controller, ArgoCD application controller there will deploy the resources. So the reason we do this over the push model is provide some scalability. This hub spoke pattern offers it's well documented to offer better scalability. In terms of security, we don't need the hub cluster to store the credentials of the managed cluster, and also reduces the impact of a single point failure. So if the hub cluster goes down or other clusters goes down, your independent application are still working fine and can be synced against the Git repo. So I'm gonna skip the steps on setting it up. So there's a detailed instruction on that. I already have it set up on my terminal here. On the left side I have a hub cluster. On my right side I have a managed cluster. What I'll be soon deploying is a application set, and inside the application set, let me see. Inside the application set, contains a generators that points at the OCM placement. This OCM placement lets you pick which managed cluster you want the application deployed to. So this is an integration. This is actually an integration that the OCM community contributed to the ArgoCD community. So the ArgoCD is able to use the OCM placement and then determine which managed cluster to deploy the resources to, or select which managed cluster to pull the application to in this case. So in this case, the application template generated by the application set must have the label pull to OCM managed cluster equals true. We also need to know which managed cluster it needs to be pulled to, and based on the results of this cluster decision resource generator, it will populate the annotation here for the managed cluster. So once that's populated, the pool controller will generate the manifest work on the select managed cluster, and then the application will be deployed there. So let's apply that. So when I apply this, I can see that the app set is generated, and we can see it's successfully generated all the applications. You can see the apps here is lying dormant. it means it's not being reconciled. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. This is another enhancement that we're contributing to the ArgoCD community, where we can sort of skip the reconcile of the application on the hub cluster, because mainly on the hub cluster in this model, it should be a dormant application. So then we should have a manifest work generated. So this actually wraps the application here, and then the application is pulled to the managed cluster, and then in this case we can see that it's this is the guest book, so it's in the guest book namespace. We can see that the resources is applied now on the managed cluster. So currently to skip the reconcile of the application, currently the workaround is scale down the application controller. But based on the discussion with the ArgoCD community, we have decided that we should have an annotation that is called on the application ArgoCD skip reconcile is equals true. And when that's true, it will skip the reconcile on the hub application here. So why that's useful is when we skip the reconcile on the hub cluster, we can now we have more control over the application objects. So when we get the status feedback from the managed cluster, so for example, in this case, we can see the sync status is synced and healthy. And because we're getting the status feedback back on the hub cluster, we can actually now take the status feedback, and then once we have that annotation, and then fully control the application in our controller, we can populate the sync status on the hub cluster as well to reflect the managed cluster status. So that is why we wanted this extra annotation. So that is sort of the progress that we have made, and by working closely with the ArgoCD community, and we're hopefully that will be merged soon, and hopefully the pool integration will be all online and ready for the next OCM release. That's it so far for the presentation. Any questions?
Yeah, that sounds nice. I have a question about the template, maybe not quite related to OCM, but when you show the application set template, there is a kind of the name is like a variable. So is that a feature that in the Argo? How that name represent is it, how that point to a certain variable?
I think this name is actually hard coded in ArgoCD applications set the generator. So this name actually means the cluster name, the server name or the cluster name.
I see. So
oh wait, let me double check. Sorry, it's let me double check if that's true or not, because it might be no there, because in the generator here we get to design. No, so we pick the cluster name. Yep, that name is actually hard coded in Argo in application set. Yep.
this one is an like embed variable that is used in the application set to to set the name for different application that is generated. Is it correct?
No, I think it's the name of the cluster.
Okay.
Just
Okay,
if
yeah.
yep. Is Li Yang on this call? I think
Yes.
yeah. Do you sort of play with the application set as well? Do you remember the name field? Let me look at your example actually. Guest book app placement app this application set. So you use cluster name, but cluster name is what we define in here. But name is actually a hard-coded value in the application ArgoCD application generator.
Okay.
So so I guess we can use cluster name or name, but in my example, I just decided to use name, I think, because it's more I don't know, it's more conventional, I guess. Because a cluster name here, we can define it however we want, right, in the generator config.
I see.
Maybe it's not however we want. Cluster name is always going to be the placement decision match key. That's interesting. Maybe I should use cluster name so that it's more clear. Thank you, Qjang. That's a great feedback.
Yeah, so I think well, because we are also thinking about having a template to install the add-on, and we also have the problem of how do we set some variables for the different clusters. So this is an interesting thing that we can learn from application set if it can also set variables in their template. I will take more look at the application set later. Thank you.
Okay, yep. So I think it's kind of interesting because per results of the generators, it doesn't have to be cluster decision resource generator. There's different generators. Per results, it generates an applications. So if it results in multiple clusters, it generates multiple applications on the hub cluster. Any other questions?
Hi, Mike, I have a question. I may miss the part how you stop the ArgoCD to reconcile the application set. Could you have to explain it?
So we don't stop the application set from reconciling. Application set is still being reconciled just like before because application set's main purpose is to generate the applications. But we do want to stop the application from reconciling because we don't want the application to actually deploy on the hub cluster, right? So in the current workaround, I tell the user to scale down the application controller. But we have based on the community discussion, we want to introduce an annotation on the ArgoCD application CR that allows for skipping of the reconcile. So I already created an enhancement proposal. It's been discussed in the community, and I already have the submit the PR for it. It's so just quickly go over the PR. The PR is just if you have that annotation and then it evaluates to true, then it returns false on this function called this function in the ArgoCD application controller. There's this can process app function that they have. So if this returns false, then they're not going to proceed with the reconcile of the application. So they had other conditions already, such as some cluster filter and some other condition. I just inserted our new annotation here. Does that answer your question, Liang?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for that question. So I think on the OCM Slack channel, I asked if how is it possible to delete the manifest work and then trigger the application delete, but not wait for this application to be fully deleted. Um, it was a question related to the ArgoCD pool integration as well, because what I'm seeing when I'm testing this pool integration is sometimes the application on the managed cluster just either hung on the delete, or the delete takes a while, but then the manifest work just stays on the hub cluster, which I guess is okay. Maybe it's okay, maybe it's not. But if we ever have some kind of UI integration, I think it's kind of nice that the hub cluster, it's sort of like deleting a resource parent on a Kubernetes resource. If the resource parent is gone, then the child will just clean up on its own or whatever. Sort of like the background delete that you suggested, QJ. But it's just a nice to have, not urgent. So that's why I asked that question. Anyways, that's basically all I have. Any other additional comments, questions?
I make one more question. When ArgoCD run in the pull mode, does the application support the rolling upgrade?
Does the application in the rolling upgrade? Sorry, it should. Sorry, the application rolling upgrade is controlled by the application CR, right? Or how? Or is that controlled by another means? We're not changing any of the mechanics of the application. We're simply putting the application CR onto the managed cluster through the pool model, so that the application in if we look at application in the push mode, let me see if there's. Let me see. So if we if we look at an application, usually have a spec destination. It's usually the server is pointing to a remote cluster, but in the pool model, we always have it to point to the local cluster. Um, but I think when you say rolling upgrade, it's all defined in the application spec here. Is that true or not? In that case, we wouldn't change any of that. So it will still behave like how it was before.
Okay, got you. Thanks.
I'm not sure if I answer your question or not.
Yes, I think so.
If I didn't, just please let me know. So in the on the managed cluster is actually uh, reconcile and deploy, right? So you can do the rolling upgrade spec changes here, and then it should cascade down here. Any
Thanks.
other questions? Okay, Qjang, do you have any other comments or about OCM?
No, I think do you plan to make a demo video for the pool integration? Or maybe we should wait until the enhancement on the ArgoCD application set is done. Like we can skip the reconcile in the annotation. That sounds, and it's a perfect demo video that we can make.
Yep. Good that you remind me, because not only we have this sort of the propagation integration, the other members of OCM, Shengjing, Philip, and Jonathan, they also have other optional enhancement to this pull integration. So they use the search components to sort of grab all the status back. So currently in the manifest work, we only limit it to the sync health and sorry, what was the sync status and the health status. But with their when the ArgoCD team merges our pull requests, we'll do a full demo uh, with the skip reconcile annotation, with the integration that I just showed, and with the search results, so that it shows all the resource status on the hub cluster, and not just the a quick summary.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no more questions, thank you everyone for attending. Happy New Year. Take care, everyone.